It was now quite night, and we were at the waterside. There lay here a black boat, with a little house or cabin in it of the same mournful colour. When I had taken my seat in this, the boat was paddled by two men towards a great light lying in the distance on the sea. Ever and again there was a dismal sigh of wind. It ruffled the water and rocked the boat and sent the dark clouds flying before the stars. I could not but think how strange it was to be floating away at this hour, leaving the land behind, and going on towards this light upon the sea. Before I knew by what or how, I found that we were gliding up a street, a phantom street, the houses rising on both sides from the water, and the black boat gliding on beneath their windows. Lights were shining from some of these casements, plumbing the depth of the black stream with their reflected rays. But all was profoundly silent. So we advanced into this ghostly city, continuing to hold our course through narrow streets and lanes, all filled and flowing with water. Some of the corners where our way branched off were so acute and narrow that it seemed impossible for the long, slender boat to turn them. On we went, floating towards the heart of this strange place, with water all about us, where never water was elsewhere, clusters of houses, churches, heaps of stately buildings growing out of it, and everywhere the same extraordinary silence. Presently we shot across a broad and open stream, and passing, as I thought, before a spacious paved quay, where the bright lights with which it was illuminated showed long rows of arches and pillars of ponderous construction and great strength, but as light to the eye as garlands of hoarfrost. We arrived at a flight of steps leading from the water to a large mansion, where, having passed through corridors and galleries innumerable, I lay down to rest, listening to the black boats stealing up and down below the window on the rippling water, till I fell asleep. The glory of the day that broke upon me in this dream, its freshness, motion, buoyancy, its sparkles of the sun in water, its clear blue sky and rustling air, no waking words can tell. But from my window I looked down on boats and barks, on masts, sails, cordage, flags, on groups of busy sailors working at the cargoes of these vessels. On wide quays strewn with bales, casks, merchandise of many kinds. On great ships lying near at hand in stately indolence. On islands crowned with gorgeous domes and turrets, and where golden statues glittered in the light, atop of wondrous churches springing from the sea. Going down upon the margin of the green sea, filling all the streets, I came upon a place of such surpassing beauty and such grandeur that all the rest was poor and faded in comparison with its absorbing loveliness. It was a great piazza, as I thought, anchored, like all the rest, in the deep ocean. On its broad bosom was a palace, more majestic and magnificent in its old age than all the buildings of the earth in the high prime and fullness of their youth. Cloisters and galleries, so light they might have been the work of fairy hands, so strong that centuries had battered them in vain. They wound round and round this palace, and enfolded it with a cathedral, gorgeous in the wild, luxuriant fancies of the East. Near to the margin of the stream were two ill-omened pillars of red granite, one having on its top a figure with a sword and shield, the other a winged lion. Not far from these again, a second tower, richest of the rich in all its decorations, even here where all was rich, sustained aloft a great orb gleaming with gold and deepest blue, the 12 signs painted on it, and a mimic sun revolving in its course around them, while above 2 bronze giants hammered out the hours upon a sounding bell. I thought I entered the cathedral and went in and out among its many arches, traversing its whole extent. A grand and dreamy structure of immense proportions, golden with old mosaics, redolent of perfumes, dim with the smoke of incense, costly in treasure of precious stones and metals, holy with the bodies of deceased saints, dark with carved woods and coloured marbles, obscure in its vast heights and lengthened distances, unreal, fantastic, solemn, inconceivable throughout. I thought I entered the old palace, pacing silent galleries and council chambers, where the old rulers of this mistress of the waters looked sternly out, in pictures from the walls, and where her high proud galleys, still victorious on canvas, fought and conquered as of old. Descending from the palace by a staircase, I glided off in one of the dark boats, until we came to an old arsenal guarded by 4 marble lions. There was little sound of hammers in this place for building ships, and little work in progress, for the greatness of the city was no more. Indeed, it seemed a very wreck found drifting on the sea. A splendid barge in which its ancient chief had gone forth pompously at certain periods to wed the ocean lay here, I thought, no more. The massive pillars, arches, and roofs, reared to overshadow stately ships that had no other shadow now upon the water or the earth. I stood upon a bridge in my dream and looked upon the ripple to the setting sun. Before me, in the sky and on the deep, a crimson flush, the whole city resolving into streaks of red and purple. In the luxurious wonder of so rare a dream, I took but little heed of time, and had but little understanding of its flight. But there were days and nights in it, and when the sun was high, and when the rays of lamps were crooked in the running water, I was still afloat, I thought, plashing the slippery walls and houses with the cleavings of the tide, as my black boat, borne upon it, skimmed along the streets. Floating down narrow lanes, past open doors, decayed and rotten from long steeping in the wet, past quays and terraces, where people were passing and repassing, and where idlers were reclining in the sunshine, on flagstones and on flights of steps, past bridges where there were idlers too, loitering and looking over, twining among a tangled lot of boats and barges, and shooting out at last into a grand canal, below stone balconies erected at a giddy height, before the loftiest windows of the loftiest houses, past buildings that were high and low and black and white and straight and crooked and mean and grand. At night, when 2 votive lamps burnt before an image of the Virgin, in a gallery outside the great cathedral near the roof, I fancied that the great piazza of the Winged Lion was a blaze of cheerful light, and that its whole arcade was thronged with people, while crowds were diverting themselves in splendid coffee houses opening from it, which were never shut, I thought, but open all night long. When the bronze giants struck the hour of midnight on the bell, I thought the life and animation of the city were all centred here. But close upon the quays and churches, palaces and prisons, sucking at their walls and welling up into the secret places of the town, crept the water always. Noiseless and watchful, coiled round and round it in its many folds, like an old serpent, waiting for the time, I thought, when people should look down into its depths for any stone of the old city that had claimed to be its mistress. Thus it floated me away. I have many and many a time thought since of this strange dream upon the water, half wondering if it lie there yet, and if its name be Venice.